Hello, it's a few days before New Year's Day, and I'm on a little mini pilgrimage here to Jeonju city, which is south of my home city of Daejeon. And I'm near Jeondong Cathedral, which is right there behind me. And it's the site of where the Roman Catholic Church built this cathedral honoring some martyrs that died here. And there's a location near here called Martyrs Mountain. And about 10,000 people died over about 100 years, I guess, as they were martyred for Catholicism. And the Confucianist ideal was not tolerating that, so they were killed. Some people say it's the most beautiful church in Korea. And I have to agree, it is pretty beautiful. A lot of the churches here are very business-like and office buildings. But this one is quite Western looking for Korea. You can see it back there. But what I want to talk about today is judgment, which obviously these martyrs experienced firsthand. But I guess the main thing is when somebody goes off a track, off the main track, off the road, you tend to get in a position where I'm going to start walking because there's way too many people here. I've said this before in some of my other videos, Korea is filled with people, so everywhere you go there's somebody. So anyway, I'm going to try to find a more private place to speak, so I'm going to pause the video here. Well, I tried a few more times at the cathedral, but no luck. It's just the way it is here. So I'm back in my hotel room, and it's near the train station, so you might hear the train here and there. But I want to talk a little deeper about the martyrs and how being judged, how we're all judged every day. Obviously, the martyrs were judged to a great extent, but I have to respect the fact that they are willing to die for their beliefs. In my own life, there have been several things. I think when you want to live a life of intellectual pursuit, or just a life of curiosity where you want to learn about things instead of just accepting what people tell you, I think if you do that, you tend to go down paths that are less traveled. So I've gone down many of these paths, and I've obviously experienced judgment, not to the extent that the martyrs did, but recently, even more than when I was younger. I think when you get a little bit older, you start really going down your individual destiny or path, and really nobody else is going down that path. So it tends to be I don't want to say a lonely thing, but a journey that other people can't really identify with. So I think mine started primarily when I was a child. I've always been an artistic person, and I think in general that sets you off from the pack to begin with. So and I think mainly that's because you're sort of drawing from this mysterious source. And most artists will admit that they're not even really artists, they're more like channelers of some unknown, almost subconscious force. So because of that, I think I've sort of went down different paths, and one of the first ones where I felt quite a lot of judgment was when I was a child. I got interested in Dungeons and Dragons, which most people, at least back then, it was kind of a nerd activity, but I was fascinated with the mythology of it and the creativity involved in making it, and also the creativity in playing it, and the sort of chaos that you have to contend with when you're playing. I mean, it's unlike any other game, really. I mean, now there are millions of games like it, but at the time, this would have been in the 80s, there were very few games like it. So, as I began to learn how to play it more and more, I got more and more judgment from my peers, and also my mother really didn't want me to play it because it was the satanic panic at that time. If you don't know that, you can look it up, but D&D was at the forefront of it, along with heavy metal music. And, you know, she took it away from me and like tried to keep me from it, and, you know, eventually I found a way, and I still play it today. But it was one of the first times I realized that any kind of knowledge that the norm doesn't really agree with can be misconstrued into something that it isn't. So that was a great lesson for me, and I've kind of followed that throughout the rest of my life. You know, I tend to appreciate artists that are a little more on the mystical side, and I have a deep interest in like alchemy and the occult. So all of those things are kind of like forbidden knowledge, and I think everyone, not everyone, but the majority of people see them as a dark force or something that corrupts people, whereas I see it like any other power. It can be good or bad. I have a video about that. I'll put a link in the description about whether the occult is good or bad. But D&D and art kind of led me to a more mystical life, which I think a lot of my peers ignore. I tend to live my life by signs and symbols and abstractions that are hard to put into words, but I experience them every day. And I think the more that I've gone down that path or dived into that, the more I feel separate. But there's a train. I feel like when it comes to religious beliefs, like the martyrs, if it's something that is really close to your heart, you're willing to take any kind of abuse for it. And I've gotten lots of abuse just for the simple statement of saying that I believe in magic. I mean, for years, at least 20 years, I've been getting abuse for that. And it doesn't really matter, you know. I mean, a lot of mystical seekers have been persecuted for that journey. So for me, it doesn't stop me from trying to go deeper into that mystery. You know, when I left America, I also got a lot of flack for that, and I still haven't really returned, at least permanently. And I guess I'm kind of an expat, so even in the culture that I'm living in currently, Korea, I'm an outsider here too. I have a lot of friends and things, but they're all from different cultures or different walks of life, and I'm, more, like I said, more spiritual minded maybe than a lot of them. So there's been that, but the most recent two things that I think have really had me experience judgment was the pandemic, which I think a lot of people experienced it, so I was not alone in that regard. I think that there was this distinct push to get people to be on sides, and I didn't want to be on any side, but inevitably I was forced onto a side by the logic of a lot of people. And that really woke me up to how strong this notion of it's almost like a psychological tick or device that some people have to, or they do succumb to be part of the herd or the group. And whatever the majority is, they're going to go that way, and then when the majority shifts to another way, they go that way. But in my experience, I would rather stick to my convictions, and that, I guess, separates you from those groups. But the last thing that I think, this is kind of funny, but over the years, I've been trying to hone my diet into a more sustainable plan, I guess, or lifestyle. So, I gave up sugar a long time ago, and then I went back on it, and then I started doing keto, if you know what keto is. If not, you can look that up, but it's a low carb diet, and trying to switch to like coconut sugars and different things. And just by doing that, it really separates you, because you can't just go to a restaurant. It's really hard because there's just not the options. And once you say, oh, I can't go there, then, it becomes difficult. And recently, in the last month, I went carnivore, so it's almost no carbs. I've been having a little bit of apple cider vinegar and things like that, which have minimal carbs, but I feel great. I feel probably the most healthy that I've felt since high school, and I'm almost 50, so that's saying something about the diet, but it really, really restricts you to a very, very limited, plan, I guess. Maybe like 8 or 9 things that you can eat. And, I've gotten a lot of flack about, oh, you need to eat your vegetables and oh, this and all that. But I've done a lot of research on it, and I'm fairly convinced that it's the right path to go, at least right now. Maybe I will come up with some more opinion about it when I find out more information. But as of right now, I think because of plant defense chemicals and a lot of other reasons that meat and dairy and maybe a little bit of fruit, low carb fruit, is probably the best diet, at least for me. But that's another thing where once you start going down a path, like with D&D or with my art or something, the further you go down there, the more you are persecuted for it. So every time I see someone, they're always like, are you eating normal yet? Or, can you go to the bathroom? Or all these other, kind of snide comments. And I don't think that people are doing it maliciously. I just think it's an inherent part of human psychology to doubt if one person is going down a certain thing alone. People start to wonder, why are they doing that? And there are a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff that I'm interested in, and I don't even think they're theories. I think most of them are facts, but again, the mainstream point of view doesn't accept these things or labels them as ridiculous or this or that. But what I'm starting to realize in my older age is that most of the things that are demonized are typically the answer. What I mean by that is the truth is there, and one of the reasons it's demonized is because the world we live in doesn't want the truth. It's that simple. And, let's say, for example, that the Catholics on this mountain had a direct experience with God, and they believe so strongly in that they're willing to put down their lives for that truth. And I'm not saying that God exists. I personally believe that there is a universal consciousness, so there is some kind of God, higher being. But that doesn't mean my view of it is the same as theirs. But I do respect the fact that they were able to find the strength and courage inside themselves to not back down to it, to the Confucian mob. So I guess what I'm saying here is it's almost the new year, and if there's something where you fear that you shouldn't go down this path or that path because you might be judged, I think fuck them. Excuse my language, but whatever's right for you is right for you, and I think it's good to go down those roads. And if you do, it will lead you closer to who you need to be. I think that's about it. I'm going to end with a few videos from my journey here to Jeonju and a Hermann Hesse quote that I think sums this up. So anyway, enjoy the videos and have a good day.